During the pre-production of my A2 Media coursework, I realised that in order to create convincing products, I needed to research and apply forms and conventions of real media products to my own. For my magazine advert and movie poster, this meant looking into similar real media products, finding elements I needed to include and elements I liked, and then replicating those. For example, movie posters always need the name of the film, images from the film, and release information. But I also wanted to include short reviews and festival laurels. For my magazine advert, I knew I needed the magazine details, film details, promotional images, a general review, and a rating. But I also wanted a clean modern look that worked with the colour schemes of my film, as well as reference to similar movies and other critical review. I think this worked effectively and looks professional. The bulk of my product was the short film I made. Most of my detailed research was for this. As a film in general, I included my production company logo, idents and title credits at the beginning and end, and I used establishing shots to introduce character and setting, and worked with diegetic and non-diegetic sound. And I wanted each scene to have seamless editing to create a professional product. I also put a lot of focus into lighting, colouring, and shot composition for effective visual interest and to represent the emotion and tone of my film. My short film is a coming-of-age drama with both live action and animated elements, in which the protagonist Riley is dealing with being apart from her childhood best friend Emma, who is at university. It takes place in the transitional period between the last months of secondary school and the beginning of university, and the timeline jumps between flashbacks and the present. It is aimed towards late teens with a gender skew leaning more towards girls, as the two characters in the film are both girls. Some films I took ideas from include Easy A, directed by Will Gluck, Meet Earl and the Dying Girl, directed by Alfonso Gomez Reyon, Edge of 17, directed by Kelly Freeman Craig, and Juno, directed by Jason Reitman. These are all coming-of-age films with female leads. I decided on this genre because most of my favourite films are in this category. Conventions of short film. I researched a few short films to get an idea of what these entail. However, most of my inspiration came from feature-length films. I found that most short films were 5 to 10 minutes long, low budget, and only introduced 2 or 3 characters. These were all true for my own film. I also recognised that most short films relied heavily on character stereotype because this allows for fast recognition of character type and therefore the narrative can move forward faster. I don't think my 2 main characters stuck to any stereotypes, so in this way I challenge convention. I used my actors a lot to improvise so they were less characterised and more natural, acting as themselves. I also challenged convention by choosing not to have a conventional twist ending. Conventions of coming of age. I find that coming of age films focus on psychological and moral growth and emotional responses and dialogue rather than action. My protagonist Riley experiences this psychological growth as she learns to be self-dependent, where she used to be very codependent on her childhood best friend. She is also transitioning into adulthood, hence coming of age, and my narrative does focus on dialogue. Often the key themes found in coming of age films are controversial, which my film challenges. However, themes of friendship and growth are found in both. Conventions of narrative. I researched a range of narrative theories and can apply a few to my film. Bart's Enigma Code suggests the audience has to solve a puzzle to realise the story. My film supports this theory. My storyline is non-chronological, and at first it's unclear why the protagonist is having conflicting emotions between scenes. But as the story progresses, this becomes more obvious. She is struggling to be happy without her best friend. Levi Strauss's ideas of binary opposition were a strong influence in the development of my narrative, because I focused heavily on the differences between happy and sad through story, colour coding, and timeline. I also think my narrative structure followed Todorov's story structure to an extent. We see the equilibrium at the beginning of the 2 friends together, disequilibrium of Riley struggling to cope on her own, and then a new equilibrium in the final scene where she's learnt, to an extent, how to live in the present. In general, I think my product tended to convene to the ideas seen in many real media products, but I also think that my film has a style and conventions personal to me. From the beginning of pre-production, I knew I wanted to animate some parts, work with shot composition, and I also wanted to focus a lot on colour and lighting in a way that seems professional, and I think I did this effectively to create a solid product.